If you do more than 4 of these 8 game dev habits, you will fail as a game developer. Now, number 1, lack of structure and goals. Now, right now, you might not have any structure or goals about when you are going to work and what you're going to work on. And I'm sure you get some things done in that way, but it's nearly not optimal. You could do a lot more if you actually had a goal and a structure. But if you're going to create a structure, we should start by creating a goal. So when we're creating a goal, we want a goal that we are going to achieve in 12 months time. And we are going to have monthly milestones, which leads up to that 12-month goal. So if you don't have a goal already, this is going to be an actionable step for you. You're going to start by writing a 12-month goal, and you need to find out which monthly milestones you need to achieve to actually reach that 12-month goal. And I want you to be specific about the 12-month goal here, and I want you to also write it down on even pen and paper. The best thing is actually to write it on your wall, or just to write it down on a document on your PC that you can easily find. And when you're creating this 12-month goal, you want it to be something that's reasonably unreasonable. It should be around one step above what you think is realistic. But don't make it too hard or too easy. If it's too easy, then you're not going to sacrifice enough to actually achieve that goal because it's not worth it. But if it's too big, then it's going to be too hard for you to actually think that you could even reach that goal. So you're just going to lose motivation, lose hope, and so you need to find something that's in the middle. Now, when we have our 12-month goal, we are going to start by creating these monthly milestones. And the way to think about this is that the monthly milestones aren't goals in itself. They're just going to be something that shows that we're on the right track to reach the 12-month goal. And the thing to note about goals is that success is not linear, it's exponential. So if your goal is, let's have a very easy example, make 12 full games, make 12 full small games, for example, and you're a complete beginner, then your first monthly milestone isn't going to be create one game. That's not how it works. You have to maybe use the first 6 months or even 10 months to just learn, create like prototypes, and then you can use the 2 months instead after you learn everything to actually create those 12 projects, because now that you have used 10 months to learn, you can create these 12 projects much easier and also much better. You can create them in a much better way. So the progress towards your 12-month goal should not look like this, like linearly. It should look like this, like kind of exponential. And that's because success is almost always exponential. It's not linear. Like, for example, if you are going to make $1 million and you reach that when you're 28, let's say, then you aren't going to get $100,000 every year since you were 18. You're likely going to get 80% of that maybe in just the last year alone. And that's because, again, success is exponential. It's not linear. It's very, very rarely linear. Awesome. Now that we have our 12-month goal and our monthly milestones, we are going to create a structure around this. So we're going to use our monthly milestones and we're going to create the weekly tasks. And these weekly tasks are going to be our work tasks. That's going to be what we actually work on, which means it's going to be much more specific, like exactly what you are going to do, what you're going to learn, like specifically what you are going to do during that week. And that's kind of how you get a structure around this. So now that you know what you are going to work on for each week, then you can look at the first week and you can find out around how many hours you need to schedule to working if you're going to complete all those weekly tasks. Let's say you need around 7 hours to complete all your weekly tasks. Then you need a schedule which assigns 7 working hours during that week. And that can, for example, be working 1 hour before you go to work or school in the mornings. Now, number 2, unrealistic expectations. So right now you are likely underestimating how long it takes to actually build up the skills and release your first few games. And this is where a lot of people can lose their faith and lose their motivation, because they kind of go into this game development thing with a mindset that making games doesn't take that much time. So my point here is not to have any expectations that this game development thing is going to be a quick learn and you can make games very quickly. So I want you to just completely forget all the expectations you had around that this is going to be a quick thing. Like, this game development thing is going to take as much time as it takes. And now, just to give you a number, you can expect, for example, like 8 to, let's say, 14 months before you can actually start developing your dream game, depending on how fast you learn and all those other factors, of course. Because you need to have these realistic expectations about this, because one thing is that you'll lose your faith and you lose your motivation because you think that because you see that this takes a lot more time than you expected, because you had all of these unrealistic expectations. But the other thing is that when you have these expectations, you kind of believe that you are capable of doing more than you actually are. So you plan building these big projects, like even maybe your dream game, which is way too complicated than anything you were ever able to finish. And eventually, in the development process of that, you are going to very quickly realize that this is very hard and you're not going to complete it. And that's where it's very easy to become upset and kind of have all of these negative thoughts that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough to do this, and you're not learning quickly enough, you're just stupid. Like, all of these beliefs. And just because you had these unrealistic expectations about how hard game development actually is. And the reason why I say this is because I made the same mistake. I wanted to build huge projects when I couldn't even make a simple 2D movement script. And that made me to completely forget about game development for around 2 years. So don't make the same mistake as me. Instead, you should build projects that around one level above your current skill level, because that's something you can actually finish, while at the same time you need to actually learn something to complete it. So that's kind of the sweet spot here. And that also leads me to my next point, which is number 3. You're not building any real world projects. Now I'm just going to say it straight away, tutorials are not real world projects. It's like watching someone swim and then believing that just watching them swim is going to teach yourself how to swim. It's not how learning works. If you're a beginner, you should focus on solving real tasks and solving these messy problems in real projects. And to get that experience, you need to immediately start building realistic, enjoyable, personal projects for yourself. And when you're facing a problem in that project that you're creating, then instead of just watching a tutorial or asking AI how to do it, which you shouldn't do, then what you should do instead is that you should think logically. Maybe have a book and a pen, and you try to draw stuff, like find the logic. Like, just find the logic, don't care about the code or the implementation. Just find out what you actually want to do. And then after you found out what you want to do and how you should and how the logic in what you want to do actually is, then you can start focusing on the implementation. And chances are you won't know how to implement these specific things, and that's where you use Google. So you just Google these specific implementations, like how you implement the logic that you yourself thought about. And that's how your brain starts to learn. Now, point 4, chasing perfection. Now, when you are building these projects that we talked about, they will be ass. They will suck. But you just have to accept that, and you need to instead change your mindset and actually be proud that you actually created something. Because you'd be shocked about how many game developers that actually just follow tutorials for months and months and haven't created their own project at all. So you should be proud of creating whatever you created. And no matter how bad you think your project is, then you need to ship it quickly. You need to ship it quickly, and you need to ship everything that you create. because that kind of builds a momentum. Like you're building, you're releasing, you're building, releasing, and that also grows your confidence and skill levels. So that's a very good loop to be in. And that's why you have to ship your games, which means to release them to the public. For example, you can just quickly upload it to itch.io, and you can just make a very simple store page. Doesn't need to be anything fancy, just get it out there. Because in the beginning, functionality is everything. You shouldn't care about polish, visuals, unless you really like visuals, and creating just efficient code. Just focus on the functionality for now. That's what you'll learn the most out of. And now point number 5 is fear of criticism. A lot of developers don't show off their work because they think it's not good enough. And they have a fear of judgment, that all people will judge them. And the problem with that is that you won't get any critical feedback if you don't show it off. If you don't release your games to itch.io, for example, or showing it off to friends or family. And that can actually really hurt you because you won't get any external feedback because you're just in your own bubble and you created the game. Maybe you think this is logical, but for the player, that might not make any sense at all because you are the developer, you aren't the player. Watching someone play your game will give you 100 times better feedback than you playtesting your own game ever will. So I remember when I launched Neon Search, which is my first game, I got a ton of comments on both Reddit and on itch.io on my strengths, my flaws, the bugs, and the best strategies that you could do in the game. And I just got a bunch of feedback that I'm going to use for my next game, Neon Surge 2. And it's just a bunch of things that I didn't think of myself. And there was even this YouTuber which played my game and reviewed it. And watching that video just gave me tons and tons of valuable feedback. It was extremely valuable. But if I had this fear of judgment and this fear of criticism that you might have, then I'd never get this feedback. I'd never learn all of these things that I learned from actually releasing the game and getting feedback. So that's why I want to emphasize how important it is to actually release your games. Just get it out there, ask your family and friends to play it, and I promise you, you'll get so much valuable feedback. Now, if you're tired of building in silence and want to actually finish and improve your games, I have a course that shows you exactly how I did it in just a few hours a day. The course is currently on pre-sale, and when the pre-sale ends, I will double the price. Click the link in the description to join and work smarter, not harder. Now, my 6th point, which is also my last, is that you have no consistency, you only have motivation. Most beginners, they depend on motivation. But the thing with motivation is that it will never last. Motivation never lasts. You need to replace motivation with discipline and routine, which we talked about in the first step. You need to have a routine. And you need to create a discipline around that routine to actually follow it. And I also have other videos on routine and discipline on my channel if you want to watch them. Just go on my channel and find something. Now, when I made Neon Surge, I had some days where I didn't want to work on it. Because I work in the mornings, I'd wake up and I really didn't want to work on it because maybe I had no energy, I slept bad, or like the thing I worked on the day before was very boring and hard. Because since I had a discipline and I had a routine that I was going to work on a game in the morning, the first thing in the morning when I woke up, I would actually never skip it. I would always wake up, I'd always come to my computer, I'd always open a Unity project, and I'd always work on the project, just as I said I would. And this is something you need to do if you are going to release your game. Because when you have a bigger game especially, you are going to have to create these systems and do these tasks that aren't as fun, which are really hard and really boring, but just has to be done. For me, that was UI, for example, and they just have to be done. You can't skip them. You're a solo dev, you have to do them. But if you just rely on motivation, you will never do them, or you might do them, but you might just do them in which might be like 15 minutes over like 2 weeks. So create routine, create a daily habit, just as we talked about in the first step, and don't rely on motivation. You can't rely on motivation if you actually are a developer who wants to create bigger projects in the future. Well, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.